6 months ago, my coach, George, abandoned me to go train and teach in California. However, I made it my mission to go out there and to try and stop this man and to get my revenge for him beating me up so many times in the past. Let's see how I did.
The match gets started, I'm putting a lot of pressure on George, but I have to give myself a -1 point because what is that style? I've got a rash guard on, I've got gi pants that don't stay on, and my shorts are popping through. But I have beaten male pattern baldness, making this an even match once again, and I'm shoving my head into his chin to try and work on some nice pressure passing. But the real crux of my problem comes up because George has a strong 2-on-1 over my wrist. Though I do have strong head positioning preventing him from going in on my legs, if I can't get my hand back, I'll never be able to cross-face him and shove his back to the mat. Thankfully I doused myself in sweat so I was able to pull my hand free, but I want to make sure that I trap his wrist by shoving it down to the mat. We can see I lost a lot of my pressure because he's pushing against my hips, but this isn't going to stop me from going for my next attack. I start lunging with my knee, putting more pressure on him while keeping his hand stuck because I'm creating an opening. And that opening is none other than going for the guillotine. I wrap around his chin, he throws me off to the side quickly. I decide to lose a few brain cells to post my head on the mat to prevent him from rolling me into side control, which allows me to spin out, get to front head, and now I'm using my chest to keep him pinned to the mat. For me to finish the choke, I want to go to mount, but as I start to step over, he blocks my foot with his hips and keeps turning out to the side. I readjust my grip by going off the chin strap and I'm going for a full-on deep guillotine. My elbow's just about over his shoulder and I know he's going to go unconscious if he doesn't do something soon. He's struggling, the oxygen is leaving his body and he's starting to squirm ferociously to get out, so I attempt to go to mount, which works, but I just barely wasn't high enough, which allows him to push me off of him and I lose the guillotine. Great, now it's back to step 1 of doing this all over again. Hey, but guess what? George has different plans for me as he's gonna go for a quick reverse de la Hiva and start rolling towards my back. When people go for Kiss the Dragon, I like to try and keep control over their leg because you can threaten them with a knee bar or an ankle lock if they give you just enough extension. But look at George's foot placement in my armpit. That makes it really tough to do either of these options. Then when I think I'm clever by switching sides and which foot I'll attack, I'm reminded why he's the 4th degree black belt, and he puts both feet behind me to stay safe. It starts to get worse for me because George decides he's going to attack my legs. So I drive forward, bring my knee to him, putting all my weight on my foot. But with his outside ashi, he just kind of pushes me over and I tumble to the ground. I quickly get my feet out of there and I start driving into him. George recently won No-Gi Worlds and I can't let this guy get any advantage on me or I know I'm going to be in for some trouble. Some time passes, I count my blessings, we're stuck in the same half guard position, but he's going to go for another offensive technique. Because I'm standing up while using this half guard pressure, it gives him space again to hit the same reverse de la Hiva entry, but I use as an entry of my own to go into the ankle lock. I've had George in 100 different ankle guillotines and I swear this guy's ankles are made of titanium. Despite me having a nasty crank and I'm even turning towards the outside, he's able to simply stand up. I have to bail on it and then I use it as another entry to go back into the ankle lock, but he keeps spinning with me and I lose the footlock attack altogether. It's starting to get dicey for me as I'm on total defense and George weighs a ton when he's on top of you. He's trying to use the long step pass by going around me and pinning my bottom leg to the mat. When I'm in this position where I'm folded over, I need to get my bottom foot back in so I can retain some type of guard, which is exactly how I went to butterfly guard, putting me in a little bit of safety. Because I have his heel trapped, the next order of business is to kick through so I can start going towards butterfly ashi. This is reverse single leg X and it gives me a nice leg entry, but because his knee is pressed against my chest, it's tough for me to work into saddle. I feel like Stephen Hawking's down here, completely paralyzed from his weight, but I eventually work out towards the back. You can see the fear in George's eyes as he does absolutely nothing and I spin through, finally working back on top. I'm a little frustrated at this point because I did all that work and I'm up here and the second I have any bit of space I give him, he spins out to the back again. Except for it's going to be much worse this time because he has total control over not just one foot, but both. I sense the ligaments in my knee are in danger, but it's too late. He's got a lateral knee bar on me and the pressure doesn't take too long before I'm forced to tap or have my knee torn. Now since I went all the way to California just to roll with this guy, I made sure we did it in the gi as well, because I'm a true masochist. You all know how I feel about wearing the pajamas, but Checkmat really loves to keep the gi on at all times, and it's not working out too well for me because as I have a bottom half guard game going, George quickly works around it, then he rolls to take my back, and I'm already fighting off a terrible position. I'm not going to pretend like my back defense is perfect, but the one tip I always say is to try and keep them on their hip. You see George has a full rear naked choke. Most people would want to fight the choke, but I'm deciding to attack the foot instead. I know that if I can peel this top hook off, I'll have enough time to survive against the choke, and hopefully I'll end up on top. Congrats to me, I was able to escape his back control. But not congrats to me, because as I'm going for the same passing style as before, this time I have sleeves, and he can grab my sleeve, pull it out to extend my arm, and he's just gonna yeet me over with an easy elevator sweep. And what you can't see, but he kept my arm trapped after the sweep, and look how he's going to transition with it. He goes straight into an armbar, and I have to follow the mount, otherwise I'm going to get submitted instantly. And you'd probably be thinking this is a better spot because my arm's not compromised, but now I have a girthy Brazilian on top of me, and he's quickly attacking a cross collar choke. After he's had enough time playing with me, he falls down to the side to finish the submission. Maybe I'm down 2 submissions, but you know what they say, third time's the charm. I'm using the same entry as before, and he has a different answer for me this time around. He's keeping my hand pinned by controlling my sleeves, then he lifts me up, uses X guard to come to a single leg, and he gets one of the most basic but effective sweeps in Jiu Jitsu. Now I'm stuck defending in turtle, trying to constantly back my butt up so he doesn't take my back, but he gets underneath my arm, similar to a darce, and he's putting on a ton of pressure on my neck. Really, this is just a 3/4 Nelson, but when you keep that palm to palm grip and you don't let them roll, it becomes a quick neck crank and he gets another submission. George was feeling so confident that he told me to take my gi off, and it ended up being a trap. He threw me into a triangle. I stacked him as a counter to get some of my neck back. He used this to scoop underneath my leg. Then he off-balanced me to bring my leg up to his shoulder so I couldn't defend against the triangle. Then he rolled me over, while having my leg over his chest, crunching me into a triangle, and I was in complete misery except I was saved by the timer. It was good to see George, and even better for him to whoop my ass.